be here. You guys are so energetic. Even last night and tonight, I mean, the energy coming out of this room is absolutely amazing. And you're all talking with one another, which doesn't happen at every conference, trust me. But I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to talk about the most important skill we've never been taught how to do, which is communicate. Some of us have had little bits of communication training here and there, but I certainly didn't get any education in middle school or high school or anything about how to communicate, how to listen, and how to have hard conversations. And I will say this up front, that one of the many blunt things I will say during the day that will either make you love me or hate me. Our communication is either how we speak, the words we use, our tone, what our face does. All of these things are either building your success or they're destroying it. Your communication pattern in this job is almost essential. It is almost dependent on how we communicate. And again, when I became an EA, I didn't have that first course, how to communicate to your executive who's completely different than you and thinks in a different manner and doesn't know what you do. That course wasn't available for me at that time. So I didn't know what to do. But what I will tell you is that communication is a skill. It is learnable. You can learn how to listen. You can learn how to communicate. It's like learning another language or playing pickleball. You're gonna start, and then you're gonna make a mistake, and you're gonna fall down, and then you're gonna get back up. You're gonna realize what mistake you made, and then you're not gonna do it again. So think of your communication training as just that, as how you would learn a language. You're gonna start something, you're gonna take away one piece of your communication aspect, you're gonna add on one piece of your communication aspect. Do little bits at a time. I'll tell you for sure that when you walk out of this session after me, you're not gonna know how to communicate better. I'm gonna give you the skills, but you actually have to be the ones to do something with it and use it consciously, which is very different. And again, communication is not only important in work. I'm going to give a lot of work examples because we're here in a work capacity, but communication affects everything. It affects your relationships, it affects your friends, it affects your family. You have been known to your family as something for a long time, and it might be because of how you communicate, we don't know. But it affects everything in our lives, so why not pay attention to it? One of my favorite, this is one of my favorite quotes by Susan Scott, Fierce Conversations. This is an awesome book, by the way. Our careers, our companies, and indeed our very lives succeed or fail gradually and then suddenly, one conversation at a time. And now really think about that. We go through situations and we have communication with someone and we talk to them, and then all of a sudden we get into a spat and we're like, I don't know what happened. She's never talking to me ever again. This one instance happened. I have no idea what happened. It was not that instance. I promise you that. It happens very gradually, where your communication is telling everyone something about yourself. And then all of a sudden, boom, something happens. Somebody tells you that they didn't understand you. Somebody told you that you speak in a different way and you're not training me in the right way. It all happened gradually and then suddenly. And every conversation matters. Every single one is either building trust or destroying it. Now, here's the rub. Again, no one taught us how to do this. So we mostly get our communication pattern from who raised us. There's a lot of science that goes into this, and I won't go into all of it because I don't have that much time. But in my full day communication workshops, I talk about the science behind how we've learned how to communicate. I'll give you just a bit. When you're babies and you're born with all the neurons you need in your brain. What you don't have is the synapses that connect them to each other. We learn through your very beginning process. This is fight or flight. When you are a baby, you are fight or flight, and they have something called the serve and return process. This is what babies go after. They learn what to do to get a positive reaction from you, and they learn what to do to get a negative reaction from you. They figure it out because they cry, you come. You do this, they do this. So you're learning all of your basics from communication from whoever raised you in your very little space. Then 5 or 6 years old, we go into school, and then our teacher may communicate in a different way, and they might be more academic, so we're kind of picking up things from there. And then maybe we go to college and we're running into a whole bunch of people that our brains are not formed yet, you know, we're all whacked out in college, and we're not really communicating that well either. And I'm just gonna be honest, a lot of your schooling and a lot of college depends on how much money you have. It's horrible, but I grew up in the streets of Philadelphia, public school in Philadelphia. Let me tell you, it's a lot different than public schools in other places. So a lot of it depends on money, which is terrible. Then we get into the workforce, and all of our communication patterns either came from who raised us, came from our school, or came from the crappy people we met in college. And then we go into the business force, and then we're like, why doesn't anyone understand us? I don't know what to say to them. And we lose our shit. And it's scientifically true that you will lose your shit. So you have to learn what this means in your new life, in your communication patterns. What does it mean now that you're in a business space? I will give you my favorite, worst, best story of when I fell down and went boom with my communication, just to give you an example. So do we know this guy, Simon Sinek? Does anyone know Simon? Yeah. So he was my dude for a while. Yeah, he was my dude. For about 10 years I supported Simon. My title was Chief of Simon because I ran his life. In fact, that was my shtick when everyone would ask me who I was. I would say I'm not his wife, but I ran his life all the time. So I did everything for him, especially in the beginning. We were a 3-person team in the beginning when Leaders Eat Last and Start With Why came out. We were literally 3 people, the CEO, Simon, and me. So I did everything. I did all of his scheduling, I did everything, and I traveled with him. So when we got into our busiest season, we were on the road on an average 220 days a year. So I was home less than I was gone. I was on more airplanes than I was in my office, and I still had to get my job done. I had 3 jobs basically. I was his keeper, you know, I was the fundamental EA stuff, but then I was also really in strategy on how to build him and build his network and his basis. One time we're on the road, this is maybe a year and a half into, probably a year and a half into working together. And we're on the road, it's one of those weeks where we're somewhere on Monday, somewhere on Tuesday, somewhere on Wednesday, and we were going home on Thursday. And we were at the airport that I like to refer to as Purgatory, which is Chicago O'Hare. It's where souls go to die. I have never not been delayed in that airport, I swear to God. So we're at Chicago O'Hare. We're standing in line to go through the TSA pre-check. And into my brain starts the panic. I've been traveling all week, my email's probably out of control, I probably have 700 emails, and I have so much to do, and I have to get back, and like, you know, that rumination that goes on that just tells you that you're failing because you haven't done something, as opposed to I just couldn't get it done because there's normal things happening, like I was sleeping. So I started to panic. I started to think, oh my God, it's gonna be Friday and I'm not gonna get to talk to him on Friday, and then we're the weekend, I'm not gonna get to go through my list with Simon until Monday, and that to me was unacceptable. I had things to get done. So I decided on my own, very smartly, this sounds like a great idea. He's stuck in line. He can't leave. He has to listen to me. He has to answer my questions. Let's start pummeling him with questions. It was 9 o'clock at night, okay? I have energy for days because I'm an EA, and that's what we do. When we need to turn on the switch, we turn on the switch. So I was like, got it. And I pulled my little notebook out of my bag, and he knows what this notebook means. It means it's a big list of things that he hasn't done, and he literally goes, and I was like, hi. Anyway, so, and I just started rattling off. Did you do that? Why didn't you do that? You need to send that email. Hey, what about this? What are we gonna do about that meeting next week? And he just looked at me, very tired and very sad, and he said, Monique, not now. That's all I said, not now. In that exact sentence. And man, did my top pop from that. Like, in an instant, that not now to me meant you're not important, what you do isn't important, what your job function isn't important, what's on your list isn't important, and I don't need to deal with it right now. And my head exploded. And maybe I was cranky and tired. I'm not proud of what I did, but I started to scream at him at the top of my lungs. And I started to tell him all the things that we always wish we could tell our executives. You don't believe in what I do, and you think I'm just your slave, I'm not your fucking son. And I just was like, what are you talking about? I have to get this done, you rely on it. And it was all about how he didn't appreciate me. And I was furious. The TSA pre-check guy came and told us that we had to quit. And he literally came up to me and he's like, if you don't keep it under control, I'm going to take you into that side room, which was one of those rooms in the airport that doesn't have a doorknob. Have you ever seen those? There's no doorknob. And I was like, I don't want in that room. So I quieted down. We got through his pre-check. We got to the other side, and my emotions were getting the best of me, and I started to cry. And I had to turn away because I didn't think that was right. Can't cry, you know, can't have crying, especially after I just puffed up like that. I can't stop crying. So I was like wiping my tears, and so I just said, like, Simon, what's your problem? And he said to me, I'll never forget, he said, Mo, I'm exhausted, and I just don't do things like you do. I don't have the energy that you do. And if I answered your questions now, probably wouldn't be very helpful. But I want to, I just can't. Well, you know when you figure out a whole conversation is completely your fault? That was where I was in. I was in that space. I was in the space where I had no idea what just happened, but I knew I couldn't continue doing things like this. I knew our relationship would never build from a communication session like that. I thought I was going to get fired after that. I have no idea why he didn't fire me after that. He should have. I said some pretty crappy things. But he didn't. He kept me on, and we moved on, and we built our communication pattern together. But again, what I learned was I had to change. I had to fix my communication. If I kept saying, God, I wish he talked to me differently, God, I wish he gave me better instructions, that's just putting all the onus on him. What about me? So I knew I had to change, and I knew I had to do it immediately. Oops. Where's my thing? So that's what we're going to do here today. I'm going to give you some quick and easy tips to improve your communication immediately, things that are actionable and tactical, and you can start right away. So this is just the beginning. This is the beginning of your journey, but I would encourage you to read books like that Fierce Conversations, Radical Candor. I mean, there's so many of them. I have them on my website, which I'll tell you about later. So I encourage you to do so. This is intentional. It has to be intentional. You know, I could wish all day long that I had six-pack abs. I could hope and dream that I had a flat six-pack ab tummy. But if I don't do the work, nothing's going to happen. It's the same with your communication. If you don't do the work, nothing's going to happen. I hear from my coaching clients all the time, I just wish I could communicate better. And I'm like, you can! For those of you that are younger, that was Bewitched. Really good show. Oh no, that was I Love Jeannie. I Dream of Jeannie. That was I Dream of Jeannie. Hers was the Wiggle Nose, which I don't know how to do. Anyway, I digress. So this is intentional. You have to pay attention to your communication. What I'm asking is that you bring your communication to your conscious level. Listen to yourself when you speak. Listen to others when they speak, and then make changes. Best thing to do is at the end of the day, when I get in bed at the end of the night, I review some of the most important conversations I had that day, and I pick them apart. How could I have done better? Even if I did a great job, even if nothing went wrong, how could I have done that better? What's a different word choice I could have used? What did I do with my face when I was talking to this person? So I encourage you to do something like that, quick and dirty. You know, 2 minutes before you go to bed, just review some of your conversations during the day and figure out just how to turn the dial one notch. You know, don't expect the pendulum to swing, but turn the notch one time. So that's what we're doing here today. I'm going to give you some tips on listening. I'm going to give you some tips on speaking, and then everyone's favorite, hard conversations and feedback. So we're going to do that. Because you control what you say. You control what comes out of your mouth, and you sure as hell control how you respond to other people. Nobody makes you say anything. Nobody makes you scream. Nobody makes you angry. I'm sorry. That's the second thing I'm going to say that you might hate me for. There's going to be a few. Sorry. But this is what we need to learn. We control what we say. We control our communication. And actually, when I started to realize that, it actually gave me power. I didn't feel like I was burdened and put in a corner by this. I felt like it gave me space. I felt like I could finally take ownership of where I was in my life, and man, did I ever. So let's talk about listening to understand, not to reply. Most of us listen to reply, not to understand. And it's definitely a leadership skill. 60 to 80% of high-performing leaders spend their communication time listening, not speaking. And it doesn't say high-performing CEOs, it doesn't say high-performing CTOs, it says leaders, which includes you. Everyone can be a leader. So think of that. They spend 60 to 80% of their time listening, not communicating. Let's think about what we do, just to get a touch point of where we are. So let's talk about this. I'm going to go into this a lot later when I talk about our speaking, but this is how we communicate, and this is how messages are received. 7% of the message received is through your words, through verbal. That's it, 7%. 38 is your tone, and 55 is your body language. So this is the message that everyone's getting, and this is the message of how you should be listening. Again, I'll go through these when we talk about speaking later, but how to listen, actively listening, includes those three parts. You do have to hear the words, but you have to notice their tone. Notice when they go down. Notice when it goes up, that's got energy behind it. Notice when somebody talks to you and their shoulders go down. Watch their body language. You learn more from body language than you would from anything somebody says. So pay attention. It is active listening. This is on you to make sure that you're looking for all three of these things. Now, here's the sabotage. Here's the part where you're really gonna hate me, I'm sorry. The biggest listening sabotage, guys, is your self-made distractions. It is the using your phone and your computer while people are on stage talking about things. It is using your computer and your phone during meetings. I'm going to give you some science here. You cannot read and listen at the same time. Your brain does not allow you to do that. Because when you read, you're actually processing the information through your auditory cortex. Because when you read, you're reading in your voice. When you read a book, you are reading the words out loud in your voice. So your auditory senses pick that up when you're reading. So how is it going to listen to the person talking? You cannot. It is impossible. Even if it's quick, I don't care. It is going to distract you consistently. Let me just send one email. Let me just do this one thing. I'll just pay attention after that's gone. Your noisemaker notifications. Whew. God, I hate those. If I could give you one piece of advice, it is turn off your damn notifications. You don't need to know when every email comes in because your email inbox is open. It's on your second screen. You don't need the bing or the buzz. I'm on coaching calls with people and I'm looking at them and they're going, yeah. I'm like, you're paying for this. Can you come back? Can you come back to me and just listen? The email is fine. Now, if you work for a brain surgeon or if you work for somebody who's actually important, okay, you have to be on your phone 24/7 and you have to have every noisemaker. I'm not saying this is for everyone, but let's be honest. Sometimes we do it because we want to do it. We keep them on because we want to hear the bing. We want to get the dopamine hit. That's what happens when you get a notification, by the way. Your body releases dopamine. Dopamine is an addictive drug. It's like literal addiction comes from dopamine. So when you're getting that bing, I'm important, I'm important, I'm important, I'm important, I'm important, you're getting that dopamine hit, but it's fake. It's gonna go away the second that Bing stops after that. So turn off your notifications. If you have your email inbox open, you don't need those little dings. And Slack, I'm sorry. I know you all are on the Slack thing. What do I say about Slack?
There's a lot of Slacky issues.
I know, there's a lot. Just be careful. Just be careful. Just the distraction that goes along with it is harsh. So I read a study that said when you get a bing or a buzz, especially from a Slack type of thing, it is the equivalent of when you're sitting at your desk, you get up, you walk into your kitchen, you open up the refrigerator, pour yourself a drink, close the refrigerator, get the drink, come back to your office and sit down. Your brain has gone for that many seconds while you're getting up and doing your thing. That's what happens when you get the notification. You lose your place. Teachers are telling us that they are getting wonderful essays from their students, but they're disjointed. It's one paragraph that's great, and then the next paragraph is great, but it didn't really go with the first paragraph, and then the next paragraph is great, but it didn't really go with the paragraph above that. It's because people are typing a paragraph and then checking their email and checking their Slack and looking at Facebook and doing the thing, and then they're like, okay, now I'll come back and do that. You're gone. Your attention span has gone. You need to put all that energy back in so that you can pay attention and listen. It's damaging, literally damaging your brain for what you need dopamine for. You don't need dopamine when the little bing hits. I'll get off my high horse now. I'll keep going. But you have to fully participate is what I'm saying. So go into your meetings and listen. Courtney was up here yesterday. She said, she's in meetings all day, and I hear this a lot. I'm in meetings all day. I have to be on my computer all day long. Well, then why are you in those meetings? Maybe you don't have to be in all those meetings. Maybe you can put your auto recording in the middle of the table and record the conversation and then listen to it later. Maybe you don't need to be doing both. So where applicable, turn off your notifications. Don't bring your computer into meetings. Don't bring your cell phone. Bring a pen and paper. It's so cool. You will be so interested. And I'll tell you, from my perspective, when I started to listen in meetings was when I went from an admin assistant to an executive assistant to an executive business partner to chief of Sinek. That happened in less than a year. Because I listened. When you listen to these things, you are going to pick up so many ways that you can lend your brilliant hand. I took over Simon's book launches just from listening in a meeting when he was talking with his publisher. It was just him and his publisher having a 2-second conversation. And as I was listening, I was like, the thing that they're missing is like one person that has all the information, one cog in the wheel that can really control the whole book launch. They didn't have that. So I wrote a proposal, gave it over to them, done. He was like, sweet, you got my book launches. Because I listened, because I paid attention. The second one is our ego. And I will say that this is really the killer of curiosity and growth. When I say our ego, it's like when you say, oh, I already know what they're gonna say. I already know what she's gonna do. I already know what they're gonna do. I tried to explain it, she didn't get it, she doesn't want to learn, and then of course it's just easier to do it myself. That is ego. I'm not saying that it's bad. We do need our ego for many reasons to keep us alive. What I'm saying is you don't know what they're going to say. What I'm saying is maybe she does want to learn, and you didn't give her a chance to ask questions. And maybe it's not easier to do it yourself, it's better to stop and train. So be careful with your ego telling you what you're going to expect. Because your mindset is going to walk into that room and you're going to get it. Whatever you were thinking you were going to get, you're going to get because of your ego. So let's just take that out of the equation completely. And even if you know 90% of it, keep yourself open to that little 10% that might change your whole career. I mean, literally, it changed my career. That little teeny weeny words that are not the biggest words in the meeting will change your career. So when we can be open to that, we're gonna get lots more information. Does that all make sense? Okay. So we're going to go into speaking with intention, not with our habits. We mostly talk from habit. It's how we're born. We get these habits, and then we grow up and we just keep them. You really should mature. Your communication should mature with you. So let's talk about speaking with intention. Again, this communication trio. So when you're speaking, your words are 7%, your tone is 38, and your body language is 55. Please, make this put this to memory. This is super duper important. We have to think of what we're doing with our bodies as well as our voice. I'll give you a perfect example. You probably all heard this before when somebody says, "What's wrong?" and the "I'm fine." So if I go, "I'm fine," you're believing my tone over my words. You're sure shit. Or if I went, you're going to believe my body language over everything else. So it's not that one is more important. They have to work together. If your body language doesn't say what your words are saying, I'm not going to believe you. Again, I'm fine. You're not believing a single word, and our bodies will process that. So we have to watch what we're doing with our things. Women use our face as more expressive than men do. Men tend to use hands more than face. Women tend to use face, so pay attention to your face. This was something that really took me a long time because I definitely was like, I'm a Philly girl, it's like right out there, I couldn't help it, and Simon would go, "What's wrong with your face?" I'm like, oh, damn. So we have to understand body language is super duper important. So whenever you're talking, especially if you're standing up, notice what you're doing with your body. Closed, open. These are the soft spots. If you show your belly, if you show your wrists, it's very inviting to other people. Showing your neck, this is, I trust you. So make sure your body position is opened and not closed, and make sure you're looking directly ahead, not down and not up. Just two tips for how you use your body language, but make sure that you're using them. How to speak with intention. First and foremost, we have to recognize our defaults. Abandon me, oh, I didn't mean it that way. This is how I talk. This is how I talk to everyone. I said that for a long time. This is just how I am. I'm from Philly. That doesn't work all the time, and I had to not let that work all the time. So recognize where we are. Recognize your defaults. What are your habits? What are your behaviors? What triggers you? Are there words? Is it a situation? Is it a person that triggers you? Think about this and identify it. When you name the devil goes away. So when we can identify who, what, where, we can prepare ourselves for it and not get triggered. Easy peasy. Focus on what do they need to hear rather than what do I need to say. So often when we're communicating, it's what do I have to say? Even in our vernacular, I go, I'm going to go tell Julia something. I'm going to go tell Julia something. That's not really what it's about. It's about sharing information. The context of communication, the word comes from the word to share. So think about that. You're not telling someone something, you're sharing information. That will probably come out way differently than if you're telling someone something. So we can use this and use where you are, recognize your defaults. There's a lot of cool tests out there. I'm a Clifton Strengths obsession lover. I love those, but there's a lot of things out there that can tell you about how you communicate to recognize your defaults. Otherwise, think of what everyone's told you your whole life. If more than 4 people have told you something like you're blunt, it's true. It's true, and you have to work on it, that kind of a thing. So just listen to people when appropriate and make some changes. There was a research study done that said they polled like 6,000 people, and 95% of them said they were self-aware, and then they took written exams, and only 10% of people were actually self-aware. So we really do have to do work in order to be self-aware, and again, bring it to our conscious mind. When I took the Clifton Strengths, you don't have to know much about it for me to say this, but I'm a #1 achiever, like #1 driver in seat, move, get busy, get going, get done. I love working, I love being occupied, I have energy for days. And so just hearing that taught me a lot about how I communicate. I talk fast. I tend to talk in bullets. I tend to jump right into the point and then give the detailed information after. So even just learning this one thing about a skill set that I have told me a lot about how I communicate. And then I could either flex or prepare. So when I would go into a room with a whole bunch of people that weren't loud and bold like me, I would lower my register. I would talk a little slower. I would sit down, look at them in the face as opposed to standing up. These are very basic things that we can do to help other people understand what we're saying. Sending a message is not being understood. So we have to make sure that we are understanding where we're coming from and flex where needed in order to get the response that we needed. Because that's what it's all about, right? When we're talking to someone, we want them to do something for us, we want them to think something, we want them, there's action behind it usually. So being clearer is the goal, is the way to get that done. Here's the other one you're gonna hate, use verbal communication. Oh boy. I get it, there's email and there's Slack and texting and all those things, but if you really, really, really need to be clear with someone, please use your verbal mouth. Use your words, you can ask questions. If you send an email that's longer than a page, retract and call the person and say, here's what's going on, here's the information, yada, yada, yada. I'll follow up with the HR version of the email, but I don't need to give you 17 pages of information because guess what? The person on the other end may not understand that way. Reading may not be the way that they get all of their information. So when possible, use verbal over text, email. I always say use your voice 2 times more than your fingers. I know it's hard, but try. Even with outsiders, when I would tell people, hey, I need to set up a meeting or something, they would send me an email. I would call them back and go, hey, I know both of our executives are super duper busy, so instead of 14 back and forths about when we're busy, let's just do this right now. Call me right back. And she sent me an email. He's available on, and I was like, hey, none of those work, so you need to call me back. And we got it done in a minute, maybe 2, as opposed to 17 emails back and forth. God, I hate those. So there is a way to not have your email inbox flooded, and one of them is to use your verbal communication. Another reason why this is so important is because the voice you write an email in is gone the second you hit send. Your voice does not come out on the other end. I just said when we're reading, you read in your own voice. I don't read in your voice. I don't read in your voice. I read in my voice. So I'm going to read that however I'm feeling at that moment. So if I send an email over to Kelly and I'm like, hey Kelly, hey, do you have those board minutes? And that's how I sent the email, but Kelly had a bad morning and she got into a fight with her partner and the kids were late on the bus and the thing happened and the executive yelled at her right when she got in, and now she finally sits down at her desk and she opens up my email and it's, hey, where are the board minutes? Because I'm in a mood, and so I'm gonna read everything like that, so be careful with email. I'm gonna read it in my voice with whatever's going on in my life. Emojis don't fix it. Hey, you haven't responded to me in 13 days and you really need to get back to me. Smiley face. Nope. Nope. 100% nope. Because they're going to read it however they want to, and if 4 other people bothered them that morning about the board minutes, you're going to get your ass handed to you for that. So let's just talk. Let's just do this old-fashioned thing with our voices more and more and more and more. Like texting and all those kind of things, it's just getting really dangerous. It's getting out of control. Dinner, you go to a restaurant, everyone's texting on the table. Nobody's talking. If we don't continue verbally communicating, we will die as a society. Period. We need to be social with other humans in order to stay alive. So when we don't, also by the way, yeah, I mean, remember this slide? So when you're texting or emailing, you're giving people 7% of your message. That's it. I'm filling in tone and I'm filling in your body language. So 93% of it is coming from my attitude, not yours. Just something to think about. So let's just try to use our verbal communication more than anything. The other thing is be specific with your executives. When you're communicating, verbal communication does this much easier. Be specific with what you want to do, what projects you want to work on, what things you're good at, and be specific about it. I had a client who was like, you know, I really wanted to plan this event, and my exec didn't put me up for it. I really wanted to plan it, and I was like, well, did you tell him that you wanted to plan it? She said, yeah, last year when we were at the meeting, I told him I like planning events. I was like, what? Do your CEO know what that means? Like, do any of your execs know what it means to actually plan an event? RSVPs, lists, spreadsheets, blah, blah, blah. He had no idea what she was talking about. He was like, okay, you like events, great. If she had said, hey, I would love to plan this event for next year, I could talk with them and make sure that I get all the reg numbers and I'll do some work and I'll totally different. You're gonna get a totally different reaction. It is not your exec's job to know what you're good at. You have to tell them with your mouth, a lot, because they're very busy. So keep going. And if they don't listen, say it again. I wanna do the book launch side, I wanna do the book launch side, boom. Sorry, we can actually get what we want most of the time, which is really nice. Okay, so let's go into hard conversations. What's my stop time? 11:40? Oh, sweet. So I got some time. Okay, great. I was rushing through this. I don't know why. I was like losing my brains on this. I thought I was 10 after. That's what I was thinking. I'll go through this, then we'll do some questions. Okay, hard conversations, navigating with skill. We live in a very strange world these days where some people will say anything that is vile and crude and horrible out of their mouths, and then some people say nothing. It is the strangest atmosphere in the world right now where people are just blatantly saying things to other people horribly, but yet there's some of us that just conflict avoidant. Anyone in here conflict avoidant? It's okay. You can raise your hand. It's okay. A lot of people are conflict avoidant. Guess what? We've never been taught that either. I wish there was a class in middle school that said how to have an argument with your bestie and still be friends. That's cool. I would love that conversation. No one teaches us how to do this. So we go in with whatever we were faced with as children, however you got feedback as a child, pretty much dictates how you think feedback is going to come to you later in life. Trust me, I think of my dad every time I get feedback, my army dad, every time I get feedback, and how he would say that. So that's what I was expecting for so long. So we need to go in these with a little bit of an open mind and just accept the fact that we were never taught how to do it. And we're probably gonna be bad at first, and then we're gonna get a little better, and then we're gonna get a little better. I, obviously, from the story that I told you, I sucked at this for so long. Hard conversations, I would get defensive, I would put my back up against the wall immediately, and all I wanted to do was prove why I was right. Prove that I did the thing, prove that I knew what I was doing, prove. Didn't help me grow, didn't help my career, didn't help anything. So we have to learn how to do this. 70% of employees are actually avoiding hard conversations on a daily basis. 70% of your company might not be talking about these hard things. It is unbelievably important. Hard conversations are information exchanges, feedback, that kind of thing, not punishments. When we think about feedback or our annual review as a punishment, as an hour-long session on why I suck and why everything that I do is wrong, that's what you're gonna get out of it. 100%. You're gonna walk out of there thinking that you suck and that everything you do is wrong. So we can go into it with an open mind and open like our listening. Okay, So, we talked about that. The first thing to do is check our mindset when you're going into a hard conversation, or you're going into a feedback session, or your annual review, or you need to tell someone that their breath stinks. Whatever it is, prepare yourself before going in. I see so often my coaching clients, they'll go into their annual review and they're just like working right up until the time, and like the anxiety is building and they're just sitting in the corner, like hyperventilating, just waiting for this. The anxiety is building, it's building, it's building. I'm like, go for a run. When I have to have a hard conversation, I hold plank. I hold plank right before I go into the conversation, because after a while, when you're holding plank, you can't think about nothing besides holding yourself up. So if that is one of the things that you get this anxiety before you go into a hard conversation, that go for a run, walk outside, pet your dog, listen to some music. Mary J. Blige is awesome. Just Dance. Just put on that song. I think it's called Just Dance. Just move. I don't know. It's Mary J. Blige. Get up and dance. I do this all the time in my house. Nobody's watching besides my dog. But I want to get that energy out so it's not stuck in my throat. So it's not stuck in my heart. So move your body before a hard conversation. Also, your mindset going into it. If you go into a feedback session literally saying, this is awful, they're gonna fire me, and I'm gonna, like, you have closed yourself off for all the growth and development that you could possibly have out of that feedback session, completely. You've shut it down. And maybe there's some truth in there. Maybe there's something to learn. Feedback may not all be right, but it's important. Some of it might be. There's a piece of it that might be. There's something you can do in there that's actionable, that you can take and actually work on, and maybe you've been told this 6 times before. But when we go in with that fear, even when we're giving a hard conversation, we go in it with fear. Oh, they're gonna hate me, and this is my favorite statement. I don't want them to think I'm a jerk. That's how that works. Like your tone, your language, your body image, if you're gonna be a jerk, it's gonna come from your tone, it's gonna come from your word choice, and it's gonna come from your body language. It's not just magic. Feedback itself is not mean. Humans are mean. Words are mean. So the feedback itself is not the problem. So if you're going into a hard conversation, again, calm yourself. I like to think of 3 things. What do I really want from this conversation? What do I really want for me? And what do I really want for them? What is my motive? Why am I going into this session? Why am I talking with them? Why am I giving them feedback? And then you behave like that. That's the way that you go in. If I really wanted to mend this relationship with my best friend, how would you act? What would you say? How would you hold your body? Then do that. Basic way to do it. When receiving feedback, again, turn on your active listening, because if your mindset is shut down when you walk in that room, again, you're not going to have any growth whatsoever. So just listen. Don't judge on like the 5th word or 7th word. Listen to the whole thing and then process it. Ask questions. Ask questions when somebody gives you feedback. Can you give me another example? If you don't understand, you don't have to get feedback and then be like, okay, I'll figure it out. I'll figure out what to do with it. No, say, okay, can you give me an example? Can you tell me more? Tell me how it made you feel, whatever it might be. Dig down, get to the root of what is going on so that you can make change. And again, take control of your voice, take control of your vocabulary. All this happens when you are prior to going into the conversation. All of that is kept in your mindset. If you really want to tell someone that their breath stinks to help them, there's a way to do it in which they won't be offended. It's just our motive going into it. So if we have a clean motive will come out when it's not about clarity. Use positive language and use future tense. This is a very actionable tip right here. We understand positive language 30% more than we understand negative language. Negative words are 30% harder to understand Then positive language. I'll give you an example. Don't think of Tina Turntable. You're thinking of her. Because that's what our brain sometimes has to do. If our brain can't understand it, it will turn it into a positive so that we can get it. So you had to think about her in order to not think about her. So this is why it's just easier and better to use positive language out of the gate. Even when the statements are saying the exact same thing, positive tense, future tense will win every time. And it'll be easier for the other person to understand. So when giving feedback, you know, we use things like don't be late, don't do that. That's not how it happens. That's very negative. Do it like this. Let's be home by 9. Positive. You will get way more attention and you will get way more acceptance if you're using positive language in a future tense. ING, not ED. As when you're receiving feedback too, talk about future. You know, if somebody's harping on what happened 6 months ago, okay, we're in today, what do you want me to do moving forward? What does the future look like? Not harping on what happened then. I am going to, I intend to. Simon would tell us this. He'd say, when you're gonna tell me that you're doing something, I want you to start with, I intend to. Do you think it's okay if I what? No, I intend to call your publisher and get that cover changed. Okay. You're eliminating like extraneous conversation about it. You're being very upfront. I am going to. I intend to. Don't give your execs more work. When you're asking them for permission for everything, you're giving them more work. You're putting the onus on them. Do you think I should send her an email? He doesn't care. I don't know. Do it. You know what you're doing. You know how to do your job better than this person does every time and twice on Sunday. So make sure that you're being unbelievably clear, you're asking questions, and you're using positive and future tense when possible. Even still, I do it. I hear myself saying not, no, can't, don't, won't, shouldn't. When I hear it, it just hits my brain, it hits my brain, and hits my brain. But that's training me, actually. That is what practice is, doing something over and over and over again and changing it. So I used to say it 4 times a day, but I noticed my conscious attention kept picking it up, and then I would use not, no, never twice a day. And then I would use it once a day. And now I use it very rarely, but I did that on purpose. It was purposefully done. So try to use it. And positivity, again, is body language. You know, if you're sitting crunched, if you're behind your laptop, like, is that a signal that I don't want your energy touching me at any point during the day or what? Like, so if you're in a session with someone, move your laptop, move your phone, sit there, be in it, tell them what's up. And your phone upside down doesn't count. Yeah. I mean, think about it. Like, if you're talking, if I'm sitting up here talking on my phone, like, yeah, communication is, ooh, it's important. You know, speaking is, what? I mean, how does that feel? It's really crappy. So don't be that person that does that. If you're talking with someone, if you're having a communication, if you're having a conversation, I don't care what it's about, put the device down. We only got those devices 15, 20 years ago, and we were perfectly capable of having conversations before then. So, and if you're texting in a fight, never text fight. Don't text fight. You just, my fingers aren't moving fast enough. Never gonna get what you want. Never gonna come to the way you want, because you're giving them 7% of your words, and they're filling in how you said it, and your tone, and your body language. So it's never gonna work out. Do the hard thing and have the hard conversation. Now, for those that did raise their hand with conflict avoidance, I totally get that. I was there at one point. No, I wasn't. I was pretty much but it might not ever be comfortable. So one of the things I want to really get across is it might not be smooth sailing for you when you need to have a hard conversation or give feedback. You might still get the weird tummy, you might still get the butterflies, you may still get a little anxious headache, you may have the shakes, it's fine. It's your body's reaction to anxiety and your body's reaction to probably cortisol, which is what's running through your body at that very moment. I teach this, and I still sometimes go into hard conversations nervous and anxious, but I don't let that drive the conversation. It's just my body reacting to what's going on, and my body is allowed to do that. I'm allowed to sweat, I'm allowed to be nervous, I'm allowed to say to the other person, I'm really learning how to do this feedback thing and I'm not gonna get it right, but I just wanna have a conversation with you about it. When I started doing this, I would say that every time. I'm pretty bad at this, but I wanna get better, so I'm gonna give you the feedback and I want some feedback back on how I did it. Again, those nerves may never go away, but don't not do it because of that. It's just your body's reaction. Also, your body reacts the same to nerves that it does to excitement. It's literally all the chemicals in your body happen that if you're nervous and if you're anxious, it's the same chemical and body reaction when you're excited. So just before I got up on stage right now, when my belly did the, holy crap, I'm about to get on stage, I just went, this is exciting. This is so exciting. And then you're kind of fine. I mean, I talk to myself a lot, so that's what works for me, but get in your own mind and do it however you want to do it. Also with the positive language, by the way, if you want your negative feedback to catch, use positive feedback first. If you're only giving negative feedback to someone, they're probably not going to listen to everything you say. Because all you're giving them is negativity. But if you drip some positive into that as well, they will believe it way more, every time. So, 70% of what makes us trust someone is how they communicate, not what they do. And we have to really pay attention to that. Our trust, our jobs are very dependent on this. So, why does this matter? And then we'll take some questions. Consistency in your communication builds credibility. You are known for how you communicate. Everyone else around you knows how you communicate, even if you don't. It's called the social effect. Everyone understands. This is one of my favorite lines. Your tone is your reputation. That's how people know you. That's how people probably know you're executive too. And, don't be like that. Silence does send a message. Ignoring something, not giving a response, not saying, yeah, I'm on it, it sends a very clear message that you're not that important to me, or whatever you need from me is not possible. And again, leadership happens at every level. This has nothing to do with your executive, this has everything to do with all of you. I don't care who you're working for, what industry you're in, communication will always be important. I've given you a lot today, but just know that your tone, your words, and your body language are giving everything to everyone. And we can practice, and we can get better, and we can excel. There you go.
Monique, I might have lied to you. Your end time was 11:30, not 11:40. So if you have additional questions for Monique, we're gonna take one or two. Don't worry, don't panic, Shelly, I see you. I'm coming for you, girl. I'm coming for you, girl. She will be around, so ask her some questions during lunch. She's happy to network with you guys. So yeah, Shelly, you want to kick us off?
And as you heard, I'm very blunt, so you can ask me any question, and it doesn't make, I don't care.
And again, Monique, I apologize. First conference, you know what I'm saying?
I talk fast too, don't worry, I'm a fast talker. Okay, so 2-second story leading to a question. So I worked for the first time with multi-generational EAs at Slack. I am an elder EA, I think, qualifying. And so it was a huge learning curve for me. I previously worked with people 55 and over at many different old school companies. I heard a great tip I want to share with this group from someone who's much younger than me, Ellen, who's not here with us today, but here in spirit. And she struggled with reading email and Slack negatively. That was her bias, in fact, which is not my bias. I assume everyone loves me and it's all good. So she shared with me her fear and her experience, and I was like, I literally never felt this way in my life. What is this even like? And she said, my mom gave me the best advice. So now when I read a Slack message or an email, I take a breath, and I read it 3 different ways. I read it as if they're my cheerleader and they're excited. I read it as if they're completely neutral and there's no emotion related to it. And I read it negatively. And then I take a breath and I think about what it really is. Because like you said, 7%.
7%.
So my question to you is, what are your tips for working cross-generationally with all of these different mindsets, experiences, all of that?
100%, 100%. So I'll give you 3 things, and this is in no particular order, it's just how it came to my brain. The younger generation really prefers text, email, text. They prefer the written word. Gives them time to think, gives them time to process, because they're terrible at communication and have never been taught how to do it. And this is how they've learned. That doesn't mean it's right. So my advice on that is talk to your younger people. Don't let them email and text you everything. Walk over to their desk and say, hey Susie, what's up? Let's go through it. Get them in the mood. You can be a teacher and you can help this younger generation. When you're feeding that fire, you're feeding the fire. So that's number 1. So verbal communication across the board. Also, the younger generation is more sensitive than we are. They've grown up with social media where you can bash people just verbally, like not verbally, in words. And so they've learned that that type of thing can be hard and harsh, that they do have a bit more sensitivity. So, you know, put the end out front. Don't make this a long-winded conversation. Say, hey, I really appreciate what you've done, but I got to just talk to you about these couple of things, and let's go through it and have a conversation about it. Work it with them in real time, and again, out of the gate. Don't, hey, so and then 10 minutes later you're getting your point. They're already way past you. Right out. I need to talk to you about that email that you sent. Nothing, I just want to help you improve, but sit with them, talk with them, and talk it out. Because usually it's just a shitty text message, a shitty social media message, and then there's no talking.
Hi.
Hi.
What do you do about an executive who will, for no reason, put down his phone, listen, they pretend to listen to you, but every minute their ADHD picks up with them, and they just, and you see them typing. And then you have to reiterate what you just said. And I'm getting mad inside.
I'm getting mad as you're saying.
I want to know, you are not respecting me.
Yes.
Please listen to me, it's 5 minutes. But they have ADHD and they just can't. And I don't know what to do anymore. This is going on a year or 2 or 3.
Okay.
And they will not switch up their things.
Okay. So yes, I understand. Simon was kind of like this too. And so when I was having a conversation with him and going through my list and he would start typing, I'd stop. And then he would look up at me and go, what's up? I'm gonna just let you finish your email. And if he kept doing it, I would say, doesn't seem like this is a really good time for you because you're very busy and you got a lot going on, and I totally get that. You do have a space at 2, so why don't I come back then and then we can have this conversation.
Yeah, not passive aggressive.
No? You're actually, that is an active thing. You're not ready. You're distracted. I'm not going to sit here and waste my time and energy watching you do that and not being heard. I have better shit to do. So you do what you need to do. I have some stuff that I need to go over with you. I'll do it at 2. Good? Doesn't mean it's right. And again, not everyone can do that. I know I got balls, but not everyone can do that. But that's silence. Sends a message. Silence sends a message. And then reiterating, boss, I got 5 minutes of questions. I got 5 minutes of questions. Can you be with me for 5 minutes? Can you put your phone down and shut your computer? Ask for what you need. Can you not type that email? I know it's a lot. Say it in whatever way that makes you feel comfortable, not my ballsy, Philly way.
All right.
Oh, are we done? Sorry, I just picked on someone. Are we done?
Last question.
Last question.
Do you ever feel like in a conversation when you had just difficult feedback, like maybe it wasn't worth it? Like where you geared yourself up for this difficult conversation, maybe there wasn't well received, the feedback, the behavior keeps happening, and you keep running up against that wall. Like I have a problem colleague where I feel like I deliver feedback and I put myself out there and vulnerable and then I'm just met with the same behavior.
Okay.
Do you ever feel like there's a situation where it hasn't paid off for you?
Sure. I mean, your job is to express the feedback clearly, confidently, clearly, with examples, have a clear motive, have a clean, when you're walking into the conversation, check your motive, check your mindset. That's your job, is to make sure that you're clear. If they want to do it or not, that's their job. That's their side of it. So the only part we can control is the feedback that we're giving. So you can try to give it in a different way. You can try to let her know that this feedback has been given, and I don't think that's tracking, so how can we get through this? What else can I tell you? Can I give you an example? Sitting down with her. At the end of the day, if somebody wants to change or not, it's up to them. So if you've given the feedback perfectly, then you've done your job. And then you get to choose how to interact with that human from that point forth. Take control.
Thank you so much. Let's give it up for Monique.